Hey, folks, welcome to this edition of Dawg Walk Talk. I'm your host, Jake Roos of Dogs HQ. And with me, as always, the man, PT himself, Palmer Toms, beat writer at Dogs HQ. Palmer, how you feeling this week, brother?
Doing well. We got another week of coverage over at Dogs HQ, getting you ready for Georgia and South Carolina this Saturday. Really excited about this matchup, SEC opener. And I think Georgia's going to be out for revenge. Kirby might have said that that 2019 game was more lingering in their minds last year, but I think it's certainly going to come to the forefront on Saturday when the teams start battling between the hedges.
Yeah, I got to feel that there are still some guys on this squad from that time, and I bet that memory hasn't quite left them. So, South Carolina, look, I mean, they've been a thorn in Georgia's side several times over the years, whether it's a little trip-up game, the Spurrier era was what it was. I don't think that anybody's coming into this one with a lot of maybe fear for the Gamecocks. But at the same time, look, like you said, it's an SEC opponent, and you can never take that lightly. Kirby knows that as well as anyone.
And that was the case in 2019. I mean, They didn't come into that game thinking that they were going to get upset. So, like you said, it's an SEC opponent. It's your SEC opener. You really want to be on top of your game there. And, it just means more. Once you get into the conference, you got to come ready to play every week.
Listen to Palmer over here dropping the motto of the conference. He's a company man. All right, let's dive right in. You had a great conversation with Augusta Stone. I believe she's with the State now. Is that correct? Over there,
yes.
Living in Columbia, covering the Gamecocks. Good friend of
UGA
ours.
UGA grad.
Yeah. Wouldn't wish Columbia on anybody, but happy for her, and it looks like it's a great gig. So, what were your takeaways in talking to Augusta? I guess what do Dog fans need to know about this Gamecocks team?
Yeah, I think when you're talking South Carolina football right now, it starts and ends with the quarterback position, very similar to what Georgia's going through right now. They've got a starter who's banged up and a backup that they feel pretty confident in. So it's just a matter of how quickly can they get that starter, Luke Doty, up to full speed and get him back out on the field. In the meantime, it's been Zeb Noland for the first two games, and he's performed admirably. And I think, he's a great story for Georgia fans that haven't, don't know his story. He's actually from Oconee County. So just down the road, this is a little bit of a homecoming game for him. But he was a grad assistant just a couple weeks ago. And played at Iowa State, played at North Dakota State, and did that this spring with North Dakota State at the FCS level, and thought his football career was over, decided to come on with Shane Beamer and the new staff here at South Carolina in a grad assistant role. And once they, had the quarterback issues with a foot injury to Doty, he had a year of eligibility left, and they thought, well, hey, you're a student. Let's get you enrolled. If you've got any eligibility left, let's get you some pads. The offense, the system. And so he went out there, won the starting job for the first week, and led them to a win there. It led them to a second win against East Carolina this past Saturday. So, I think it's like I said, it's very similar to Georgia's situation with the quarterbacks. They want to get Luke Doty back out there. He's their guy. He started the last couple of games of last season, very similar to JT Daniels. I think that he is probably, the bigger threat among these quarterbacks. He's a mobile guy, can make some plays with his feet, whereas Zeb Noland is more of your traditional pocket passer. So that's where we started our conversation. We covered a lot of different things. Some of these running backs and offensive weapons to watch. She's really high on Juju McDowell, who's a freshman there. And she described him kind of as a small scat back in a way. Kevin Harris is their marquee name. Is made his return to the field, missed the season opener, made his return this past Saturday. They've also got a name that Georgia fans are going to remember from his recruitment, Marshawn Lloyd at running back. I
was a big Marshawn Lloyd fan in high school.
Man. Yeah.
I hated that he suffered that injury last year. But that kid can play, no doubt.
Yeah. And South Carolina's 4 deep in that running back room. They've got Zaquandre White, who leads the team in rushing. Juju McDowell, like I mentioned, Lloyd, like I mentioned, and Kevin Harris has played in 1 game as opposed to the 2 for the other guys. And so, look for all 4 of those guys to be making an impact. Offensive line, they've got some struggles, which I think, we kind of identified as the biggest area of concern for South Carolina, especially given the matchup that they're facing here with Georgia and this front 7. What Georgia's front 7 has done, it's a little bit of a mismatch there for the Gamecocks. Defensively, their strength, just like Georgia, their strength is in their front 7. They've got some veteran guys up front there that could give Georgia some trouble, especially with Georgia's concerns and their desire to see more explosive plays in the run game. They're going to be trying to make an effort to explode on the ground. I think that South Carolina front 7, and it's really a front 6 for them. They run a 4-2-5 defense, but that core group up front could give you some trouble. And then on the back end, they've got some guys replacing 2 NFL draftees in J.C. Horn and Israel Mukuamu, which is a name that Georgia fans remember from that 2019 game. He had a big game against Jake Fromm. Couple interceptions there, but they've replaced those guys with Cam Smith is the name that she brought up for them. Yeah. He's one of the leading tacklers for the Gamecocks, and certainly a veteran back there in that secondary. So great preview with her. We'll have more of that on the site later today, and really appreciative of Augusta for giving up some of her time to preview the Gamecocks for us.
Yeah, no doubt. And she does a great job over there. I recommend people looking for some Gamecocks coverage this week. Go check her out. She's going to have you covered there. Whether right or wrong, I tend to judge rosters based on, are these names I recognize? Are these guys I know? Because the way I view it, Georgia recruits as well as anybody in the nation. So you're getting, if you're involved with the same players as the Bulldogs, then you're probably recruiting some of the best players in the nation and landing some of the best players in the nation. South Carolina has a pretty formidable roster, I think, all things considered in that regard. You look back and I remember a lot of these names. Kingsley Enagbare, Jordan Birch is a guy I think everybody probably remembers. Rick Sandage was somebody Georgia was heavily involved in. Zach Pickens as well. Randricus Davis, for you old school recruiting fans, you may remember he was a one-time Georgia commit. In fact, I believe he's got a G tattooed on his bicep, if I'm not mistaken. So they have some guys. They've got some players. Like you said, though, I think the concern with South Carolina, if you are South Carolina, has to be, can you utilize some of these weapons you have behind what looks to be a bit suspect of an offensive line? And will these guys have time? Will it, regardless of whether it's Doty or Nolan going for them, will those guys have time to make plays? I'm really not very confident that they're going to be able to do that. I don't know that they're going to be able to get much push and create room for those running backs. I could see them maybe trying the Florida approach from last year, running that wheel route and just, Clemson tried that several times as well, though. And so you can tell Georgia practiced against that this year. But overall, like I said, I think that they are a talented team. They've got players. They've got guys who can do it. But do they have guys who can do it consistently? And do you have guys who are going to be able to have the time to make an impact? Like you said, I just don't think there's a lot of fear around this South Carolina team. Pulled out a tight one against East Carolina, who you felt like, they may have been a little bit better. South Carolina should have been a little bit better than East Carolina. And then it's pretty hard to take anything away from an Eastern Illinois win, I think, for any SEC team. So, I guess looking at this one, Palmer, who are those guys that you're watching when it comes to the Gamecocks? I know you mentioned some names Augusta had. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think a name that you got to watch, and I go back to that 2019 game and his breakout performance there. DeCarrion Joyner, who took over for the Gamecocks at quarterback in that game, was kind of their third string quarterback after they saw Jake Bentley go down, as well as I'm blanking on his name. I can't remember.
It was a long time ago. There's been a lot of football.
Yeah, a lot of football played in between. Yeah. So Joyner took over for them at quarterback and kind of won that game for him. And has made some plays with his legs there. And since then, he hasn't gotten much run at quarterback. Has been more focused on his role at wide receiver. And is third on the team second on the team in receptions, third on the team in yards, has a touchdown on the year. And for him to make a return, an impact in his return to Athens, Augusta mentioned to me that they talked to him about that game and how much the emotions of that 2019 game still linger with him. His excitement, it was kind of a coming onto the scene moment for him. And so, I would look at him as a guy. And then, like we said, there's a lot of names that we recognize from the recruiting side of things that Georgia was involved with. I think that there's a lot of guys that Will Muschamp certainly knows, given the fact that he recruited and brought most of these guys to South Carolina. So there's a lot of motivation from that team in Columbia. I think that there's a lot of guys that could break out. But for me, I'll look at DeCarrion Joyner as a name for South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm looking at their wide receiver core, and they're not untalented. I mean, they got a pretty good group of guys over there. Chad Terrell's a guy I remember covering, or Trey Smith's a guy I remember covering. And those are older players for them, experienced guys. Can they make an impact? Like I said, that's going to come down to probably what happens with the offensive line first and foremost. And I like Georgia's chances with that matchup. I'll say that.
Ryan Helinski was the quarterback.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's right. I remember Ryan well, actually. I think let's turn our focus though to the Georgia side of things, and let's get the question that's on everybody's mind. JT Daniels, does he play? Does he not play this week? And then suddenly, we're recording this on Wednesday, Tuesday night, you get the news from Kirby Smart that Stetson Bennett may be banged up a little bit, got a little lower back strain going on. Dogs got to get their stretching in, man. I mean, that looks like what's hampering them a little bit here. But what's your feel on this quarterback situation for Saturday?
Yeah, I get the feeling that JT Daniels is going to give it a go Saturday. Kirby hasn't given any sort of indication that is absolutely going to be the case. We don't have any insider knowledge as of now. But I do think I just get that feeling that listening to what Kirby said about the injury with the oblique strain for JT, it's something that happened ahead of Clemson. Yeah. And it's an injury that they didn't feel like he took a big shot against Clemson, but after going back and watching the film, that they noticed one hit and on the first drive of the game, I think he might have even said it was the first play of the game, that they think could have jarred that injury. He played through it, obviously, for the rest of that Clemson game, woke up Sunday morning feeling a little bit sore, as I think most people would after battling a top 5 battle in that defensive showdown. I mean, it was a battle. It was a bruiser. And so, I think that JT probably could have given it a go against UAB. I totally understand precautionary, reasons for holding him out there. And they didn't need him. And so, I think that now once you're into the SEC schedule, you want your quarterback on the field, starting to, continuing to build that chemistry with his wide receivers. And I think you also want to have a backup quarterback that you feel very confident in. And I don't know that you want to risk further injury to Stetson Bennett in a matchup like this. And so I think you trot JT out there, you let him, do his do his job, if he does his job like Georgia fans have seen him do his job, Georgia's up in this game by 3-4 scores, by halftime, maybe just after, and you get him out of there. You turn to Carson Beck, who is the only 100% quarterback of that group right now. If the game is out of hand and that Georgia has it in control, I think you turn to Beck over Bennett there, because to allow Bennett that opportunity to get healthy. Obviously, Carson Beck has done enough throughout camp, throughout the spring, even going back to the spring and last season, to earn that second quarterback job. Obviously there was the mix up last week and the decision to roll with Stetson over Beck. And so I understand all of that. I think that Georgia fans are probably quick to throw Carson to the side and say, oh, well, look at what Stetson did. He's our backup quarterback. Well, he can be your backup quarterback, but that doesn't mean that Carson Beck is a throwaway. And I think that he's done enough that you should feel confident in him to get in the game and close one out. You let JT get the start, get them in control, and then you let Carson close it out. And that's the kind of the way that I think that Georgia should go, approach the rest of the season. I mean, whether it's Bennett or Beck getting in there late in games, if you've looked at teams across the country and the way that they have handled quarterbacks in the past, they've done it a lot more, where they've given some of those backup guys some reps. I think Georgia fans want to see that. I think they want to see, and not just handing the ball off. I think they want to see Carson Beck get an opportunity to throw the ball. I think they want to see Brock Vandegrift get an opportunity to throw the ball. I don't know that Brock will get an opportunity, but I think that, there's a chance where you can let your starters handle their business, get ahead, and then turn things over to your backup quarterback. Maybe even let him run with the first team wide receivers and first team offensive line and first team running backs, just the weapons around him to build up that confidence with some talented players on the field. So I think I get the feeling that JT is going to give it a go. But like we said, no insider information yet. And that we feel, that I just get that feeling.
No, I can understand why. I mean, that makes sense to me as well. I was going to give you a little bit of hell for saying that, you expected them to be up 3 scores going into the half, but I think Vegas feels the same way, man. I mean, the spread on this one's like 31.5, 32. So it's not like anybody's really, lacking for confidence in what Georgia's going to be able to do offensively. I guess
and Georgia might have been up 3 scores at the half last year against South Carolina.
Yeah.
I can't remember that one exactly, but it was I think it was 44-16 was the final. I mean, that wasn't a nail biter by any means.
Sure. Yeah. No doubt. All right. I hit you with a little over under in our first show of the week, recapping the UAB game. I got one for you today as well. Georgia in the first 2 contests, a total of 10 sacks. They've hit the 3 mark. They had 3 last week against UAB. Over under 3 sacks this week for the Georgia defense.
I'll take the over there. I will take the over there, given the concerns that South Carolina has up front on their offensive line, given the strength that is for Georgia's defensive line. I think that, again, we've mentioned it several times, you get into that SEC schedule and it amps up a lot. And so, I think that you're going to see Georgia, kind of bring the same pressure that they brought against Clemson to keep those quarterbacks uncomfortable, to make sure that if it is Doty, hey, you're getting back on the field and welcome back. This is a challenge. If it's Noland, he's a pocket passer. You want to get after him and make him uncomfortable in the pocket and knowing that he isn't going to beat you with his legs. So I'll take the over there.
I can't believe Zeb Nolan's still in college, man. I mean, he was like the first cycle of kids I covered. And I'll tell you this, I was really high on him coming out of high school. I think Zeb's a good player. Obviously now a lot of experience under his belt as well, but he was a guy that I really liked coming out of high school. I'll take the over there as well. for the obvious reasons. I mean, look, we talked about the struggles on the South Carolina offensive line. I think that is what it is. Like I said, Adam Anderson kind of playing like a man possessed right now, kind of finding his way into the backfield pretty easily. What happens if I change that number to 5, which is the average of the first 2 games? You still going with the over there?
I was just about to ask what would happen if I changed it to 4. I'll take the under on 5. I feel like 4 is the number.
Yeah.
I feel like 4 is the number. I think 3.5 would be a good line here. That 4, 4 is probably the number for Georgia. I don't know that they get 5 sacks, but they put up 7 against probably a better offensive line unit of Clemson. I mean, obviously they
unquestionably, in my opinion. I mean, that more talented. I'd say that
more talent for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, an all around more talented team. Probably a more talented quarterback. Definitely more talented quarterback. But a quarterback that with a little bit less experience. That was getting his first action as South Carolina Clemson's quarterback. I would take the under on 5, but I'll take the over on 3 and looking at that 4 number kind of right there is the sweet spot.
I just love our hypothetical over unders, man. We're just over here playing Vegas ourselves. We're making our own prop bets, and I love that.
Dogs HQ book.
That's right. Hey, we need to get that started. No shit. All right, let's talk about, for the Georgia perspective, we focused a lot, I think, on, the quarterback situation and some of these potential guys to watch for South Carolina. It's game 3 of the year. It feels like, guys are still out there making a first impression and getting a chance. Anybody you're looking for on the Georgia squad to kind of get out and make an impression during this game?
Yeah, I'll look to the running backs. I think that, with how much that's been harped on this week and the explosiveness that we saw in the passing game, I think that you're probably going to see a little, we saw the run game succeed against Clemson. We saw the passing game succeed against UAB. I think you're probably going to see a little bit more of a balanced approach, a balanced attack this week. But I do think that you're probably going to try and see Georgia make some explosive plays with those running backs. James Cook, he had a great run, to find the end zone from 14 yards out. I thought he was down there for a second and kind of looked away. And then all of a sudden I hear a little bit of a cheer and I'm like, whoa, there's Cook going into the end zone. He stayed on his feet and had to make sure to watch that replay to get a full grasp of what happened there. So I think that Zamir White, James Cook, Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton, just, that group of 4, Kirby said yesterday that it doesn't surprise him that they don't have a 100-yard rusher on the year in terms of, a single game. That never comes as a surprise to him. It probably comes as more of a surprise to him when they do have a 100-yard rusher because they still, balance out those carries. But he is surprised that they didn't, have anyone higher than, I think it was 34, 36 this past game for Georgia against UAB as their leading rusher. I think you're probably going to find one of these guys that's in that middle range between 100 and 40. Look for I'll take Zamir White or James Cook to and I mean really any one of those 4 is capable of doing it. But I'll take those 2 because I'll take Zamir White. I'll take Zamir White putting up 60 yards, 65 yards, and at least a touchdown against South Carolina here.
A little tough to pin you down on that one, man. You were bouncing around. You were trying to take the whole running back room. I agree with you. I think that running backs super motivated. Offensive line, you've got to think too, wants to open some holes for those guys. They've heard a lot about how UAB was able to stop them and contain this run game. I think that that's a situation where they feel that they can gain an edge, and they want to show that. I'm going to go with just because I can. I think Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint could have a good game on Saturday. I think that he's kind of been waiting on one to pop, and I could see it happening this week. I think that I just think he's kind of due. Defensively, I'm going to go with a guy who actually did really well last week, and that's Channing Tindall. I think that he's going to have a lot of motivation. Look, he's from South Carolina, played at Spring Valley, was heavily recruited by the Gamecocks as well as the Bulldogs. So, senior year, hey, you want to finish it out the right way. I think that Channing goes back to what he did in that game too.
That's a good pick with Tindall. He's been probably one of the most impressive defensive players for me so far this year. He's second on the team in tackles, but I've told some people that I think he's making a case as to be the top linebacker in that room. Nakobe Dean is certainly gonna is gonna draw some attention, and it's probably let's say they get equal number of runs. Nakobe's probably going to win it out, especially with his big performance against 2 sacks against Clemson. But I think Channing has shown that he's certainly in capable of being that kind of linebacker for Georgia here early in 2021.
All right. Couple last housekeeping things. Make sure to get over to Dogs HQ. We're going to start our mailbag here soon. Get that open up on the podcast and give you an opportunity to get your questions answered. So if you want to talk with us, hop on, drop your questions. We'll get to as many as we can each week, or maybe we'll just pick one good one and roll with that. So make sure you stand out as well. All right. I won't be in Athens this week. I'm on the road traveling, going to go see some recruits. Should have some real fun stuff for you on Monday coming out of that. But Saturday in Athens, right? Palmer, where are you eating and drinking this week, buddy?
Man, it's a night game, so there's a lot of opportunities to get out and experience the Classic City beforehand. Man, I don't know. I'll throw fully loaded in there. I'll look at the 5 Points area, fully loaded or 706, 2 of my favorite spots over there in that area, neck of the woods.
Okay. All right. Good pick. I haven't done fully loaded. I need to check it out.
Great wings. If you're in town on a Wednesday midweek, I know a lot of our fans here are more of the weekend crew coming into town for games. But if you're ever in town or a local here in Athens, their Wing Wednesday deal is outstanding.
Listen to this, man. We got to we need to get fully loaded sponsoring, because Palmer Tom's over here giving them some major love with Wing Wednesday. I'm not going to be there, but if I were, I'll tell you, I'm heading to Kelly's Jerk this week. Go get you some jerk pork, go get the rice and peas, get you some mac, get some collards, get the spicy squash, get the spicy cabbage. The key is get the extra cornbread. The cornbread at Kelly's, second to none. I like some sweet cornbread. I like all cornbread, just to be fair.
Man, we're really hitting 5 Points hard.
I know. Shout out to 5 Points this week. And as far as drinks go, hey, nothing like a fresh, cold Tropicalia down there at the Normal Bar. Great outside seating there too. So a lot of fun, always a good time. Might have had a couple there last Friday myself. So gotta recommend it, but just based on that alone. All right, Palmer, anything else you got for the folks today?
No, just excited to see a night game in Sanford Stadium again. It is certainly going to be an exciting atmosphere. Open the SEC schedule, and really excited to be there.
Hey, look.
Hopefully the weather holds off. The weather holds off.
No question.
It's not a great forecast for the rest of the week in Athens, but hopefully that rain pushes through and that it's clear skies for a great night sky.
Hey, look, I don't think rain's going to deter anybody. Georgia fans will be well oiled for this one. I promise you, with a 7:00 kickoff. They're probably still shaking off that 7:00 kickoff against Clemson's. But, hey, nothing like a little hair to the dog to take care of that, right? All right, wrapping it up here. Make sure to come join us at Dogs HQ. Come check us out. I think you'll really like what you have to see. Community's growing every day, and we're excited for that. Thanks to all the people who are already on board, and thanks to you who will be on board soon, because we know you're coming. So for my man Palmer Toms, I'm Jake Roos. This has been Dawg Walk Talk. Thanks for tuning in.